Hello everybody, Timothy Bailey from Project Learn with part 2 of our video looking at Juncture, the coming together of sounds in spoken English. Juncture can deal with the coming together of sounds in words or between words, in the gaps between words, in phrases or sentences. And so that's what we're looking at. We got halfway through last time. Let's go ahead and look at a new pair. So great eyes, great ties, gray ties, gray ties. So in looking at this pair of words, seems like for the first one here, there's a lot stronger sound on this first word. Great, right? And not just the first sound, but the T as well. So great, great. We get a lot of sound here with the gur and a lot of sound with the t. And then eyes sort of just follows after, right? It doesn't seem to have a lot of stress or a lot of intense sound on its own. Great eyes, great eyes. And there's a bit of a pause here. Gray ties, gray ties. So here the whole thing, right? Gray, right? There's only three sounds, g, a, gray, right? Seems to be entirely pronounced, right? Gray ties. And then there is a little bit of a pause here too. So they both seem to have a little bit of a pause, right? But here, right, for the second word, the T seems to get quite a bit of pronunciation, of stress, an intense sound. Gray ties, gray ties. Look at our example. Everyone says she has great eyes. Great eyes. This one makes me think there's a commercial for a cereal called Frosted Flakes, and the mascot for this cereal is a cartoon tiger. His name is Tony, and he always says, great. When you listen to people saying this phrase, while you don't hear that, right? You don't hear people saying, great, right? You do hear a lot more of this sound and this sound than you do, for example, here, right? My uncle's only, should say my uncle only wears gray ties, gray ties. Okay, so the whole gray, right? A single syllable, and then eyes, gray ties, gray ties. What you don't hear, right, tacked on to this, right, you don't hear the t, right? There's a pause here before we get to the t. Gray ties. Look at another pair. The sky, the sky, this guy, this guy. Now for this one, part of the difference I feel is the difference between the article here, right, and a word such as this or that or those, right? These sorts of words often get more sound, more stress than an article, for example, often does, right? So for this one, what we hear most is the sk, right? The sky, sky, right? And there's a very strong hit on this S, the sky, the sky, right? This one, again, right? What we hear mostly, this, right? This guy, right? And there's a stop here, and then before we get the G, the G, right? This guy, right? This guy. But again, this is getting most of the sort of stress, the intensification. The clouds are in the sky. The clouds are in the sky. Again, part of what we're doing and part of what you really should do when you're practicing pronunciation is to sort of exaggerate so you can hear things clearly, right? When we slow down our speaking or we exaggerate how strong the stress is, right? This is not how we're going to speak normally, but it's so we can clearly hear this. So the clouds are in the sky. This guy is my brother. This guy is my brother. Right? And you can think of me pointing, right? This guy is my brother. Right? So really strong here. This, and then, g, right? I don't think the g sounds as strong as the sk here, right? But for this word, right, it does carry probably more of the stress for the word, right? Guy. Another pair, right? Grape pale, grape pale, grape ale, grape ale. This one is interesting because it sort of has the same sound as being stressed, but there's a bit of a pause. So in this first one here, right? Well, for both of them, the p sound, right, is an important sound. But there's a slight difference in the relationship between the other sounds. Here we have a bit of a pause. Grape pale, grape pale, right? And there's a bit of a pause. Here there's far less pause, I think, right? Grape ale, grape ale, grape pale. Okay? And it almost sounds like this one. It almost sounds like the put from this word carries over to here, right? For the same reason that this one looks like this, right? Gray here, right? This part sounds like this part. And this sort of just carries along over to here. So pale, grape ale, right? Look at our examples. Please fill that gray pail with water. Gray pail, gray stop pail with water. We have a new grape ale that's very refreshing. A new grape ale that's refreshing, right? So again, there is a pause here. Not quite as long as here, it seems like sometimes, right? And again, right, we're going to hit the P sound. Grape ale. Another set. My train. My train. Might rain. Might rain. This one comes down to a pause in the juncture and a stress on a sound. Here, right? My train. My stop train. Right? And probably a little bit stronger sound on the TR. My train. This one, we really hit the T, right? We really hit the T. Might rain. Might rain. My train leaves at 3 o'clock. My stop train leaves at 3 o'clock. My train leaves at 3 o'clock. So again, when we're practicing, it sounds like a lot more, but when I say it naturally, my train leaves at 3 o'clock. It's still there, but the rate of our speaking is so much faster. Remember that that pause shrinks. So while we're practicing, this pause seems huge. When we're speaking fluently, all of this is sped up. It's going faster. This gets shrunk down, right? But it's still there. My train leaves at 3 o'clock. It might rain at 3 o'clock. Again, how strong this sound is on this T is less when we're just speaking than when we're practicing, but it's still there. It might rain at 3 o'clock. And this is the difference between different phrases that otherwise would sound the same. It might rain at 3 o'clock. Our last pair, right? And there's actually 3 of them for this one, right? Some others, strong sound here, some, strong sound here, others, some others, some others, some mothers, right? This one doesn't seem, when I was having people practice this, this one doesn't seem as strong as this one here, possibly because this M is very strong. Some mothers, right? Some mothers, smothers, smothers. Here, Very clearly, the S and the M, sm, right, carries a lot more of the stress, a lot more of the weight. Smothers. I will be attending along with some others. Some others. Some mothers like to sing with their children. Some mothers like to sing with their children, right? And people might do different stress here or less, more or less, but the key is this one, right? This will carry a lot of the stress. He always smothers the fire when they are leaving, right? So maybe they're camping, they're done camping, so he's going to smother, cover up the fire so there's no fire. He always smothers the fire when they are leaving. Now, one of the most common times when students will have trouble with this juncture, the coming together of sounds, is when we have basically the same words. Let me show you the first pair, right? So we have the same letters, right? We don't have the same words, right? Here we have an article, an adjective, and a noun. Here we have an article and a noun, right? But students sometimes have trouble with these. A lighthouse, a lighthouse, a lighthouse, a lighthouse. And this one's easier usually, I think, than you might think. Because anytime we have the article, the adjective, and the noun, it causes us, or should cause us typically, to change the juncture points, change the stress, change the sort of rhythm of our speaking. A lighthouse, right? Here, right? Adjectives often carry stress because they carry important information. What kind of a house? A lighthouse. But when it's one item, here, right? One word, one item like that, a lighthouse, right? We don't have it the same, right? This is a building, right, by the sea. A light in the top used to help sailors coming in so they didn't crash into the land. This one here is a house that is not heavy. It is light. Okay. Another example. A greenhouse, a greenhouse, a greenhouse. Right? Notice how fast these go. A lighthouse, a greenhouse, a lighthouse, a greenhouse. Right? So the adjective really slows us down. Right? A greenhouse. This is the house that looks like it's made out of windows, right? So you can have plants in there during the winter and stuff, and the sun can get through. This is a house that happens to be green, right? A greenhouse, a greenhouse, right? And the difference here, right, is if you pronounce this one like this, or you pronounce this like this, right, in the context, just like before, the listener will probably understand what you're saying, but for fluent speakers of English, right, something will sound strange, right, about what you said, right? One last one. Sweetheart, sweetheart, sweetheart. So here, right, adjective, noun, noun, right? So here I'm talking about perhaps a person who's very kind, right? She has a sweet heart. He has a sweet heart, right? Very considerate, very kind. Here, this is the name for this person you love, your girlfriend, your wife, right? Hello, my sweetheart. Hello, my sweetheart. Okay. Right? Difference, right? Adjectives and then compound words, right? That are single things. I hope this was helpful and interesting. How our sounds are connected in English can be difficult. Just practice them, say them out loud, and exaggerate what you are doing. Thank you, and have a great day.